We're aiming for a Ben's Book Club record tonight, Jane. That's the hope. We'll see how many people we get, and I'll tell you if we've broken the record, so don't worry.
Okay,
Yep.
right.
Uh,
Well, it's a cold night. People may as well stay in and be on a Zoom.
where are you? Sorry, I don't know where you're based. Excuse me. Where are you
Sydney,
based? Sorry,
Sydney.
Sydney?
Yes, I'm in Narembeen, just on the other side of the Harbour Bridge.
Okay.
Be
And it's
confused with Narrabeen, which everybody does.
yeah, right. And it's a bit cold there.
Yeah, it's been warmer today than it has been for a while, but yeah, it's cool tonight. I've got a heater right
Oh
here.
wow. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm in Brisbane, so it's about
Oh,
as
you're balmy.
cold as it gets, but yeah, it's not anything. Um, Welcome to Ben's Book Club, everybody. What we normally do with Ben's Book Club for people who are new here, and you can see everyone in the chat is already kicking things off. Jane, I don't know whether you can see everybody in the chat posting where they're from. We like to
Yep.
just see where Ben's Book Club people are tuning in from, as it's just really fun to sort of see the different people from all across the country and all across the world sometimes as well. Ian from England, hello, obviously. Welcome, Ian, every time. Yes, I don't know whether you can see Jane, but AU down here says, "Hello from Cairns. I considered putting on the aircon earlier."
Lucky you.
Mm.
I've got the aircon on down the other end of the house, but it's on heating, not cool.
I actually find it funny if you go to Byron Bay and then versus, say, Harvey Bay, the difference in humidity and the difference in just how warm it gets. Um, Apollo Bay. Randy from the United States. Randy as well, very loyal. Thank you, Randy, for always tuning in. Geelong, I imagine it's quite cool down in Geelong at the moment, and Launceston. Good old Lonnie. Hello, Naomi from Lonnie. A few people from Coffs, which is awesome. I love Coffs Harbour. We go holidaying there at Corindi, which is really lovely place to
I know
camp.
there's someone from Hawk's Nest. We go to Hawk's Nest for a week every January. Winda Whopper, Jimmy's
Yeah,
Beach, beautiful place.
it is beautiful. We
Mm.
do live in a very beautiful country. I'm a bit sad I've only explored so much of it, you know. We'll get there one day. All right, well, welcome. Sorry, what'd you say, Jane?
Also big. There's a lot
Yes,
to
it's
explore.
massive. Um, yes, I'm just seeing in the thing. Blue Mountains, I've never properly explored the Blue Mountains. I'd love to go there.
Oh, they're lovely. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
pretty. Mm.
We always aim to, because I'm from Victoria, so we often do road trips all the way down and then all the way back up. And we're always like, let's do the Blue Mountains. But on the way back, we've driven for 12 hours straight and we're like, we just got to keep going.
Become a writer. Honestly, I've been just about everywhere with writers' festivals. I'm going to Phillip Island this coming weekend. I
Yeah.
was supposed to go to Wangaratta last weekend, but the Albury Airport was fogged in, so we had to do it via Zoom. But I've been to so many places all over Australia just with writers' festivals,
Yeah.
book events, and it's fantastic. I mean, it's a thing you don't think about when you write a book. Oh, I'm going to get this fantastic tour of Australia, but you do.
Yeah. Have you ever been to the Adelaide Writers Festival? Because I
Yes,
haven't been to that one.
and
I've heard it's really good.
I'm going next year as well. So I'm looking
Oh,
forward
that's
to that.
awesome. I've
Yeah.
heard that one's great. Like it's got a whole arts thing for like a week or something, right?
Look, it's great. All the writers' festivals are fun. Sometimes the smallest ones are the most fun because you all get to hang in the same, writers get to hang in the same hotel and you
Yeah.
get to know each other and you chat about things and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's great.
Look, we've already got a person in the chat, Angeline, saying, thank goodness you get to travel all around, Jane, because your settings and descriptions in your books are amazing. So there you go.
Really nice. Thank you.
Research.
Oh,
But
it's
let's introduce Jane. Jane is obviously someone who barely needs introduction, but Jane Caro is a Walkley Award-winning Australian columnist, author, novelist, feminist, public education activist, and social commentator. I'm actually a high school teacher by day, and I had a person mention to me the other day, they were like, "Are you interviewing Jane?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Oh, can you please tell her, this is Kelly who says this. Can you please tell her I love her? And she's one of the few voices who actually back us teachers. So Kelly
yes.
loves you, Jane. I just thought I'd pass that on.
Well, thank you, Kelly. I love what teachers do. and I get very angry with how everybody thinks they know how to do a teacher's job better than a teacher does. Uh, it's
Yep.
probably one of the few really highly educated professions where people just think, oh, I went to school, I could do that. No, you bloody
Yep.
couldn't.
No, a lot of people say they could, but then they never do it, which is really strange. It's a bit of a head scratcher. Um, she was also awarded the BNT Women in Media Lifetime Achievement Award in 2023. Once upon a time, she was a multi-award winning advertising copywriter and an academic, and these days she's a full-time writer, novelist, speaker, MC, and TV, radio, and media pundit. You have published 13 books, and we will touch briefly on The Mother, which we also interviewed you for, which was a big hit in the book club, and Lyrebird, this beautiful book, which is, yeah, absolute. By the sorry, second novel for adults, but can we just very quickly ask you, how stoked were you on the cover, the title, the whole thing is such a package, the idea as it fell into your lap. Can you talk to us just about
How that happened?
how it felt kicking like 19 goals in a row like that?
Well, you know, when I first had the idea, I knew it was a really strong idea. And I knew it was, well, I was pretty sure it was original, though I got that horrible feeling you get where you think, oh, surely somebody else has already thought of this or done this. No one said so far, so I'm assuming they haven't. But I had the title straight away. As soon as I had the idea, I knew the book had to be called Lyrebird. And
A great title.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, when you get a really strong idea, it's often easy to think of the title because it comes from the idea sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened this time. And the cover, I'm going to claim a tiny bit of credit for that. It was my suggestion just to have the lyrebird feathers kind of exiting the front.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
really? Because that's the
yeah,
most distinctive part, I think, is that frill down the bottom.
that those are the Lyrebirds lyrates. And I just felt that, particularly when you're writing a crime novel, a mystery, that to have it kind of just leaving your sight, it indicates you've got to read the book to find out what that bird is doing there and
That's
what's happening.
smart. That's
Yeah.
really smart because I wouldn't have put that together, but now that you mention it, it does sort of seem that way, like it's leading you down a trail.
Remember, I come out of advertising. That's
Yeah,
a
yeah, of
that's a
course.
stock in trade.
You got that
That's
advertising brain. Yeah, see,
yeah.
that's where you can, yeah, very
It
smart. Like the pitch, very clever. I am very proud to say to you, Jane, that we have in fact broken the Ben's Book Club record. We're at 168 people here tonight, so big ups to Jane. Can we give her a clap in the chat? So our record-breaking Ben's Book Club. Thank you to everyone tuning in. For
hope I
those of
live
you,
up to the expectations.
you again, this is another 20 goals, Jane. This is another goal you've kicked. Um, for those of you who are new to Ben's Book Club, we do this every month. We interview an Australian author. You can join the Facebook group, which is if you just type in Ben's Book Club into Facebook, you'll find us very quickly. And we have a lot of upcoming guests that are very fun and special. But on the guest that we have tonight, I've got very special news. In Ben's Book Club, one of the things we really emphasize is connection of authors to audience. And we know that so many people tune in from all across Australia who often don't get to go to those big writers' festivals or go to the interviews and in person meet these authors. So this is your opportunity. And so we want to encourage you. Can you please? Oh, my mum's in the chat too, Jane. I don't know whether you can see Carol Hobson. Yeah, mum's my biggest supporter, I tell you. Um, we encourage you guys to answer the most interesting questions for Jane, the most thought-provoking questions, because Jane, and I'm sorry to spring this on you, but tonight, if you could just keep in mind your very favorite question of the night, because the winner of the best question of the night is going to get a copy of this book sent to their home free of charge. So rather than the digital copy, which Libby obviously is recommending, we will give you a physical copy, so make sure you ask all of those big important questions. And Jane, if you could just lock and load into your favorite one, it can be for whatever reason. Makes you laugh, makes you think, etc. All right. My first question for you, Jane, you have you are very talented in so many different disciplines. And there's a lot of passion in nearly every single thing that you do in your life. And a lot of them are in public as well. But my question for you is there anything particular to this particular brand of your talent that is only specific for this? So something you get out of creative writing, something you get out of creative writing for adults and writing thrillers a little bit, that is particular just to this pursuit.
It's interesting because I kind of got into it by accident because I think I never really, I always loved the idea of being a novelist, but I didn't actually have confidence that I could do it. And particularly not crime, because I thought, you had to be so clever and had to come up with plots, and I didn't think I'd be able to do any of that. And I fell into it by having an idea. And I realized when I had the idea that it could only be written as a novel, that it couldn't be
Mm,
written as nonfiction, which I have written a lot of nonfiction and I was very comfortable in that.
yeah,
So I didn't deliberately think, right, time to leave nonfiction and go into fiction, but I had an idea, and it was an idea that nagged at me. It took me quite a long time to decide to actually pitch it, and
yeah,
I got a literary agent and so on and so forth. And that was the idea for the mother.
yeah,
And so I wrote that. And the interesting thing is, it was a real learning curve for me because I had no understanding of the technical side of writing a novel, and particularly no idea of the technical side of writing a crime mystery.
mm,
But I got a lot of help. I got a mentor who really helped me. And I had a wonderful support from Alan and Unwin and the editors who really helped me pull that book together.
yeah,
That book is well, it's all from one person's point of view, from Miriam's point of view, the mother's point of view. And when I had to do, and it sold really well, it was really successful, which of course is wonderful, and it's what every novelist and writer wants, but it
yeah.
also brings with it its own problem. What do you do next? What's the album,
Yeah, the second album, yep.
second album problem. And so I was desperately trying to come up with another idea. And I started to write something else, which I was struggling with really. And I, how I sort of came to doing this book is that I was walking, struggling with something that isn't going very well and getting help, getting my mentor to help me and all that kind of stuff, but just wasn't feeling happy with it. And I went for a walk in the
Yeah,
Barringtons. My husband and I have got a property on the edge. We're very lucky.
yeah.
And split our time between Sydney here and up there. And we were walking one morning, and I wasn't much good company because I was thinking about this book that I was struggling with, crime novel. And
Sorry, do you mind if I just interrupt you? I'm
sure,
sorry to interrupt your train of
interrupt
thought.
me anytime, otherwise I won't shut up.
No, I'm really interested in because that you're sort of sounding like you're describing writer's block, but it's not really block. It's almost like this, it just feels like a very anxious kind of, like were you concerned mostly that you wouldn't get it? Was it like a puzzle? Was it a joyful, you know what I mean? Like it sounds
No,
agonizing.
it's not, it wasn't joyful. And I think for me, I'm I'm an ideas and issues driven writer. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't, the issue was right for that book, but the idea didn't feel right. And
Mm.
so it didn't feel like it
Yeah.
fit me. And so I think it's not uncommon that people come up with things and try to make them work and then put them to one side. Maybe come back to it later. Maybe it wasn't the right time for me to write that. I don't know. But
Yeah.
as we were walking along, and my husband stopped me, and he stopped me because a lyrebird had stepped out of the undergrowth and was walking along about 10 or 15 feet in front of us. And you know what it's like when you follow a wild creature and they don't know you're there. It feels like such a kind of awe-inspiring privilege to
Yeah.
be in that kind of proximity. And I was thinking about Lyrebird, so I was out of my head where I was struggling with the crime novel and
Yeah.
the present, and thinking about lyrebirds and what incredible birds they are and extraordinary. I've seen a lyrebird's mating dance once many years ago, interestingly at Baraka Swamp, um,
Okay.
and I hear them call a lot all the time, and you always know it's a lyrebird even though they don't have their own song, they mimic. but they have a particular bell-like quality to their voice. They project like an opera singer, and they're
Mm.
extraordinary vocal chord and range and things. And I'd heard them a lot. And so I'm watching this bird and I'm thinking, wow, there's such amazing birds, there's such amazing mimics. They can mimic, and I was thinking of all the things that I'd seen clips of them mimicking, chainsaws,
Yeah.
babies crying, the whole kit and caboodle tuning a radio. And then I suddenly thought, oh, what if a lyrebird heard a murder? And then I knew I had a really interesting idea. And that started to excite me. And I think sometimes when you get that, it was like the mother, which excited me. That came from a photograph. And
Yeah.
this came from this interaction with the actual bird. And so, yeah, it excited me. And I went away and started to think more about it. And I realized that, because remember, I said I was an issues as well as an ideas driven writer, that
Yeah.
one of the things that it would give me the opportunity to write about, in fact, almost an obligation to write about, is what humanity is not just doing, not just the crimes that humanity commits against other human beings, but the crimes that humanity is committing against our environment and the natural world and the species that we share this planet with.
Yeah.
And I could really develop that idea by using this way in to
Yeah.
unraveling a mystery. So that's basically, and now I find, and I had to learn a whole lot of new techniques because I knew for this one, it couldn't just be in one person's point of view. It had to be more
Yeah.
bird's eye, appropriately enough, point of view. And so I needed help learning how to do that. And so I think it's a number of things. The first is that I've enjoyed learning new things and mastering a new skill. I mean, I'm 68, it's nice to be still kind of trying stuff you don't already know at my age. And
Yeah.
I've also discovered the power of fiction in terms of being able to write about ideas and social issues and things that I care about
Yeah.
in a different way and get to a new audience, but also the power of fiction in creating empathy,
Yeah. That's a big thing.
reader, and how that enables you to communicate in a much the audience is less defensive, so you don't need to be as didactic. You can let
Yeah.
the story tell itself. I'm just enjoying all of that so much. And of course, they've been successful. Well, nothing encourages you like success,
No, that's true.
why would I walk away from it
Yeah.
um, when people seem to like it and want to buy it and are very, very nice to me about their experience reading those books. So I've gone,
Do you-
hey then, I'll do it.
That's very fair. Do you think that that's one of the primary like passions behind the reason you do any sort of, well, I guess anything, like you're saying, that's a very issues driven thing, a lot of writers are aiming at different sorts of things, but to you it is really about um, not even piggybacking, but just like you're saying, creating empathy for causes and issues and highlighting things in our world. We had a question from Kim about the reading the news for ideas, but I imagine this is something similar to that, right? You're looking at the current state of the world and thinking about what would you like to
Yeah,
talk
I do that all the time. I'm just a person who is very engaged about social justice. I mean, I'm a very privileged person. I'm a privileged white woman, brought up in a, very comfortable household with very highly educated, very, really admirable parents. I've had a really great and privileged life. But the thing my parents always drummed into me was that if you are privileged, you have an obligation. And you have an obligation to try to make spread that privilege to make the world more equal. So there isn't just a small group of privileged people at the top and then
about?
all these people with a whole lot less privilege going down. That horrifies me. I was brought up to think of that as just dead wrong. And so I guess this idea that drives me with everything that I do is a sense of injustice and wanting to shine a light on injustice um, and
Mm.
things that we take for granted that actually tremendously limit other people's opportunities in the way that my opportunities have not
Yeah.
been.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right? And that's a big part of it. Um, we've got a couple of people. I just wanted to mention this to you, Jane. There's a lot of love in the chat for the audiobook. Do you have any relationship to the audiobook and the narration there? Because Brenda, Jessica, is it Tajaz as well? I was just saying the audiobook is fantastic.
Yeah, the only they asked me to approve the narrator, and Lyrebird is narrated by the same person who narrated the mother, which is Jessica Douglas Henry, and she does a fantastic job. And interestingly enough, I used to produce documentaries for the ABC series Compass, and Jessica Douglas Henry was the executive producer of
Oh,
Compass.
wow, small world. That's
So
fun.
yeah, exactly. We know each other outside of this book, but yeah, she does a fantastic job, and it's been really fabulous to hear how much people enjoy the audiobook. And I think audiobooks are fantastic, and I think that they are a way we're getting people to read more because there was an article in the Sydney Morning Herald today about how young men aren't or men aren't reading as much. And I actually think, yes, that's true, but are they listening to audiobooks? Because to me, that's a form of reading. Writing is a substitute for speech. It's
Yeah.
speech is the core thing,
Yeah.
and writing is a substitute for that. And in fact, I love the whole idea of the Victorian thing where they'd sit around and one person would read aloud and the rest of them would stitch their embroidery or whatever it was that they were doing. And so I don't think there's anything cheating or illegitimate about
Yeah.
audiobooks.
It
I
is weird, hey. We're so quick to, oh, well, that's not real reading. Like, what the heck? Just let people. It's so strange, hey. I don't know why. It's a human urge. We'll go through some questions from the chat. I apologize. We are getting to them. So Georgie has this question, which I thought was really a funny one. Now that the book's out, Jane, if you could change one thing about the plot of Lyrebird, what would it be? And I guess this is just, just looking back on it, and you've probably read back over it and gone, I could have tweaked that a little bit. Was any changes, or do you think it is exactly the way that you love it?
um That's a really good question. I must say, by the time it gets to be in its finished form, I have read it so many times that I read it once when it comes to me as a finished book. Invariably, I find a mistake. There'll always be a grammatical error, a spelling error, or a
Yeah.
stray word somewhere, even though I've read it 5,627 times, and so have
And a
various
million
other people.
editors. Yeah.
But then I let it go. That's it. That was what I
Mm.
could do with it. I'm not saying it's the perfect presentation of the idea or what I wanted to do, but it's what I was able to do. And so now it goes out and it makes its own way. There's not a lot I would change about the plot at all. I actually thought of little things I could have added
Yeah.
later with characters just to flesh them out a bit more, but probably that's neither here nor there. I
Yeah.
do I do have an ability to just let my work go. Once it's done, I've learned hands off because you can overthink and overwrite your ideas.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's gone out there. And there was a hole in the plot. There was a big hole in the plot before it got published that one of the final editors actually picked up.
Wait,
And
wait. Tell us about this.
yeah, well, I can't tell you too much about it because if there are people who haven't read the book, that would
Oh,
give.
no, no. Everyone should have read the book, Jane. We should be spoiler in we just
Okay.
Jane might be spoiling a little bit here because it's a book club. So in theory, everyone's read it. So you should be safe to talk about it a little bit.
Okay. Well, I kind of fudged the identikit picture that Siriporn originally, well, actually, Coco originally gives them of one of the perpetrators, and I kind of left it as only one of them. And the editor pointed out that that didn't make any sense because there were two of them, and there had to be another identikit. And I thought, holy shit, she's right. Bloody hell, what am I going to do with that? And in the end, I decided that Siriporn was the right person to give the description of Leo. And so that happened. That was fine. And then I realized that Samira, I had an opportunity actually with Samira, who's a character I really like, to give her a moment of triumph when she uncovers the alopecia that makes
Yeah, yeah,
thing. And then, of course, that makes that moment of her sense of failure when she and Josh miss Nan,
yeah, yeah,
that much more kind of dramatic because she's gone from I'm crash hot to oh, I've crashed and burned.
yep,
Perhaps not the right word there, but yeah. So that what I've found interesting and what I've found often in all sorts of areas in which I've worked is that mistakes are great opportunities, that they
yeah,
often allow you to actually develop things more and better than you had in the first run through.
yeah.
So
That's a great way of looking at it.
yeah, the editors are so important for authors, or certainly for me. There may be authors out there who have it all absolutely worked out beforehand, but that's not me. And they really help me to tighten it up, make sure the plot's working properly, point out any inconsistencies. And often when they do that, at first when they do that, I'm always, oh God, I'm never going to be able to solve that. But I so far, touch wood, I have always been able to solve them.
Yeah, okay. Um, I've just got another question here. It's actually sorry, not a question, Jane. It's a statement from Julie, but I wanted you to speak on this. Julie says it was a great juxtaposition between the beauty of nature and then the very worst of us as humans. And so I was interested in your thoughts about the juxtaposition of, like you were just talking about, another juxtaposition of the heights and the depths, but like the way that you put those two things in the book and highlighted those two aspects.
Well, I think that the contrast is so important in terms of keeping something really interesting to read and to think about. And there was indeed a deliberate contrast between how beautiful and wonderful and extraordinary nature is and how wanton and how careless we are.
Mm,
Because it was very, it's not only about climate change, although that's heavily in there, but
yeah.
it's also about just the neglect, the litter, the invasion of weeds, the way that we treat the natural world as ours to do with as we wish. And the interesting thing about that, and again, none of this do I necessarily completely nut out in my head before I start writing. It
Yeah.
comes out as I'm writing it, and sometimes I go, "Oh yeah, that's good. That'll keep that." It sort of surprises me, but it also, I think, is very clear that the attitude we have, or the sort of classical capitalist and really Protestant Christian view of the natural world is very much one of domination. That humanity can dominate it, exploit it, penetrate it, blow it up, rip it to pieces, shred it, knock it down, despoil it in any way we like, and then just walk away from it when we've gotten out of it all that we want. And if you
Mm,
think about the plight of Gloria and all the other women in the book in the brothel, that's exactly the domination model, the right that the dominant men, in this case, have to
mm,
despoil, exploit, penetrate, abuse, use for our own pleasure and profit other
yeah.
human beings that they regard as disposable. We see it very clearly in the US at the moment with this view that anyone who's not a billionaire is a loser. Um,
Yeah.
and so I realised that that was quite an interesting juxtaposition. I
Yeah.
didn't want to hammer it too hard, and I hope I don't, but I did also hope that people, even if they just got it subliminally, would sort of acknowledge that we are, that the mindset of domination is the problem that we have at the moment. And it's interesting, we always paint nature in feminine terms, Mother Nature, Mother Earth. And we also exploit and abuse actual human women. So there's something about that, the female
Hmm.
passive nature. Well, maybe about to prove to us is already starting to that passive is not what it is.
I appreciate that, but just a question there that you raised where you were talking about how a lot of these things come out as you're going and they sort of surprise you. And obviously, this book is your work and you've thought it through very hard, but I think there is something particular to creative writing where it can surprise you on the page, and you
Oh,
can unearth things from your own subconscious sometimes without even putting mind to it. There's a number of questions in here about the way that you plot. Jenny puts it this way: Jane, do you plot your novel or let it run where it goes? So are you a plotter or a pantser?
I'm a pantser and I
Yeah,
let it on where it goes. And I enjoy that and I've learned to trust it.
yeah,
Um,
it's a big deal.
uh, I enjoy it because it's more exciting for me to discover what's going on as I go through.
Yeah.
It means I have to write and rewrite quite a lot, and it means the editors have a lot of work to do. But I do, and I usually start. I have a fairly clear idea at the beginning. I have a fairly clear idea of the end and where I want to go to, but I've absolutely no real idea of how I'm going to get from there to there. And so I just start to write it. And what I find is things pop up. So I'll write a sentence and then I'll go, oh, well, the next sentence has to be, oh, well, now I have to get them from there to there. How do I do that and where do they go to and what's it going to look like? And, and then characters will pop up that I didn't expect. I didn't expect necessarily Coco to be there or Nan.
Yeah,
And I find that fabulous. I really enjoy someone popping up and then I'm thinking, oh, good, now I'm going to explore you. That's going to be really interesting. And
that's the excitement that keeps you writing too,
yeah,
right?
that's the thing that keeps me going. And they, I mean, Coco is probably one of my favorite characters. And yes, I did put her in there deliberately. I knew I was going to have a trans character because I'm so horrified by the bigotry and cruelty that is being exhibited by people who call themselves feminists, which
Mm,
feminism is inclusive. It is not about telling people, how they should live and how they should identify. That is not what, in fact, feminism, when I first started being active in feminism, and that was at a very early age, it was all about being thought of as a person first and a woman second. We'd always been defined by our bodies and our genitals. And at last we were finding to say, no, don't judge us by the content of our knickers, just by the contents of our character. And
yeah,
what's happening now? We're going back to this, oh no, it's all about being what? No, it never has been, and you don't understand, and you need to shake yourself and stop your bigotry. So
yeah.
I knew I was going to have a trans character in there, and I knew that she was going to be a fascinating character, not a goody two shoes, not by any means. She's a very complex, dark in many ways.
Yeah, and I like that too, though. If you just painted just as a completely good character, then it's one note and they don't seem like a real person. You need to have those shades for sure.
They have to be whole people. I've written non-fiction for a really long time, and non-fiction has to be literally true. So you have
Yes.
to have sources, backup, evidence for your argument. But in fiction, it doesn't have to be literally true, but it has to ring true and it
Mm,
has to have real emotional truth. And so do your characters. They have to
yeah.
feel like you can imagine meeting them and
Yes.
um, not necessarily liking them, but their reality has to really hit you. And that's
Yeah.
very important to me when I write.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned there, and you mentioned the character of Coco, and I had this question, but Randy also has it. I want to read Randy's version. You portray sex workers and human trafficking with such empathy. And then I wanted to add to that, you've got so many different avenues. And I read in your acknowledgements just the number of sensitivity reads you had to do. Well, not had to, but you chose willingly to do because you wanted to get these characters and portray them with kindness, right?
Yes.
But can you talk about, meeting with experts, meeting with sensitivity readers, and that whole process about what that's like to because yeah, I guess it's a real concern, right? You want to do it right. You want to get
Well,
it right.
I don't have any lived experience of sex work. I don't have any lived experience of being trans. I don't have any lived experience of a whole lot of things, being a Filipino. So it, I feel it's just, um, it's responsible, it's respectful to,
Respectful is a
of
big deal.
course, yeah, to speak to people who have and to ask them to check that what you're doing is in fact both accurate, because that's important, but also in turn respectful and kind. And I found enormous willingness amongst the people I approached. Now, bless Alan and Unwin, we paid everyone who gave
Yeah,
us activity read, because you can't write about the exploitation of vulnerable women and then exploit them yourself.
yes.
I'm also very lucky in that because I've been around as a writer and a non-fiction writer and a columnist and all those kinds of things, I know quite a lot of people. And
Yeah.
so I always have someone that I can call. Like the hardest person to find, I have a trans friend who I got to really examine what I did with Coco, and
Yep.
she was great. And I only had two notes, and they were about a couple of words that I'd used that she felt could have been used more sensitively. Change that, no worries. Fabulous Hannah Devaney read it from the point of view of Nan, and she had no notes at all, which was great. In
Oh,
fact,
wow. That's a big deal.
her quote is on the book. It was such, I inhaled Lyrebird, she said. It's a novel. So that was great. But the hardest sensitivity read was to find someone who had some experience of sex work from a Filipina point of view. That was quite difficult.
Mm. Yeah, that's very specific.
It's very specific, and I didn't want to go barging in as sort of privileged, what, da da da.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky. I know Margaret Simons, and Margaret Simons is not just an absolutely extraordinary journalist. She's someone I admire enormously, but I'd watched a Four Corners episode while I was in the middle of writing a book, and it turns out that Margaret Simons runs a charity or is involved in a charity that is based in the Philippines, which looks
Wow.
at the children of sex workers and sex tourists, because of the enormous number of Western men who exploit Asian women in the country of origin, not just in brothels using
Yeah.
women
Yep.
in their own country. And she what she does, it's a brilliant charity, and I put a link to how you can donate in the acknowledgements in the book. But what it does is it takes the DNA of these children and it chases down their sodding ratchet fathers and
Yeah.
takes and hits them up for child support, which absolutely should be done.
Yeah.
And so she put me in touch with two social workers, which was great because these were social workers, not vulnerable women themselves, but they were Filipina social workers. And they read the book from the point of view of Gloria
Wow.
and Concepcion and etc. And that they were terrific, and they found some egregious white lady errors.
Really?
Yes, which was great. Not insulting ones, but just inaccuracies.
Yeah, of course. Like you said, you haven't got that lived experience.
No, and so, for example, they said to me she wouldn't speak Spanish. Spanish is the language of the highly educated. And so they told me there was another language which I've now cannot pronounce. I've never been able to pronounce the name,
That's okay.
which is a form of Spanish, which is spoken by, it's not Tagalog. No, good suggestion, but it's not Tagalog. Another one, and it's spoken in a particular part of the Philippines, which is very easily interchangeable with Spanish, but has its differences. And so that was a really important mistake to be picked up. So the thing, that's it, Chavacano, that's it, in Zamboanga. Thank you. That is exactly right. And I really appreciated that feedback, and then both of them said they really enjoyed the novel. So that's always really helpful, because you know that if they're enjoying it, then you have done what I always try to do, which is to be empathic and respectful.
Yes.
Um, hopefully of all the characters. Leo, he's a psychopath, so it's a bit hard. But
I
even
would say you paint all of them with shades, though. Like, I don't think
yeah,
anyone's just a pure evil, muhaha,
no.
They've all got reasons, even though we disagree with the outcome of them. We can go, oh, I see how that person became who they are.
Yes, well, Trev in particular, I
Mm,
did have quite a lot of empathy for young Trev, and how and some people have asked me, how come you had him do quite a good thing at the end, even though it
yeah.
was
Yep.
terrible. And I said, well, because I think that people are like that. I think that
I
some,
do too. It's one of my favorite things about the book was that little thing because I thought, what a human moment, and I just thought it was such a he acted instinctually. It's like his
he was
human
a
instinct.
firefighter. He was
Yeah, yeah, yep,
a killer and a firefighter. So, there's two sides, and we're all multifaceted. And I like not to button things down too much. I think life is people are very ambivalent. They're not never one thing or the other. And that life, even in crime novels where there's this expectation that you will solve the mystery, and indeed I do, but I leave threads
yeah.
untied up because I
I
think
like
that's
that.
real.
That's what you want, though. You want a book club to come around and be like, "Why do you think he did that?" And have everyone going, "Well, I don't know why." And you want that because that
Absolutely.
means, yeah,
That's
um,
engagement.
exactly. People cared enough to care about the outcome, and so why did this happen? I've got a question from Elaine, which is not a question, just a comment. Um, and I don't know whether you can read it, goes up a bit earlier, but essentially, one thing that really struck me is how distinctly Australian the book is and how much I appreciated that. I really related to the cultural diversity in the characters, the Asianness and representation of a First Nations person in their community, and essentially, Elaine is saying these elements really affected my relationship with the characters, and one thing I have not experienced before, which is really cool. Jane, is that a big important factor to you when you're writing, like to capture a type of Australianness, or is that just something because you're Australian that comes out naturally, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's where I live and the people I speak to, and I hope I have a good ear for the way people speak. I certainly found the same editor who discovered the whole, so bless her forever and always. But the only fight back I had with her occasionally was when she did the close edit, she would change some of the speaking vernacular. And I found out later that she was English and she didn't get some of the Australianisms and some of
Yeah.
the cadence of how we speak. And I would push back on that and say, no, that's how people speak. That's how they speak. And I like that. I want it, like I read everything I write out loud, whether it's a column or a book, I read it out loud. And because I need to hear how it
Mm.
sounds, and that really helps with dialogue and with establishing slightly different voices for different characters, which again, I don't do consciously.
Yeah.
I sometimes feel like when I'm writing characters, it's a bit like being an actor and you take on the
That's what I
personality
think.
of that character and
Yeah.
then you change your voice slightly, you change the way you speak because that person has that particular background. So they would do it in that particular way. And if I was
Mm.
playing them, that's how I'd do it. So I don't, it's not a conscious or intellectual exercise. It comes sort of naturally to me to
Yeah.
inhabit the skin of the characters.
I often think of there's a scene from Goodfellas where Robert De Niro is smoking a cigarette, and it's a very particular way that he takes the cigarette out and he ashes the cigarette, and he just felt that on the day and he sort of based it on all this research, but so much thought went into that little action. But in the moment, he just did that, and it's like it's a subconscious manifestation of all those different things that you do, right? And that's what acting is, that's what writing can be.
Absolutely. It's you absorb a whole lot of stuff and then you put it through the filter of you and the
Yeah.
discipline of the novel you're writing and it comes out as it comes out. And
Yeah.
there's something exciting about that and there's something scary about that.
Yes. Yep.
And, that I think is what keeps me going and what has probably converted me to fiction, which is not to say I'll never write non-fiction again, but certainly I've just signed a two-book deal with Allen and Unwin, and they want two more crime novels. So that's the trajectory
Oh,
that I'm
that's
on
awesome.
now.
We'll have you back before we know it, huh?
I'm not the fastest. It takes me a while.
I really want to get to this question because I think it's a really special question. This one's from Margaret Spencer. Margaret says this, as someone close to the retirement in the invisible stage, which, yeah, really interesting phrase
So,
there. Yeah, I am curious what motivated you to have a retired person as a key character in your book, which I think is a lovely question.
yeah, you may win the favourite question, Margaret. I think I think the reason for that is both emotional and actually kind of calculated. So emotionally, it's because I've always been a champion of women, and as I get older, I recognise that the double whammy of sexism and ageism is very powerful for women in particular as they age, and we really cop it even harder. And the stereotypes around older women that we're either sweet little old grannies who bake cakes and look after grandchildren, or we're battle axes that are, or Karens. Karens, I hate that. Is really very sexist, and yet almost invisible to people that ageism remains a prejudice. It is a prejudice, and it's weird because we'll all experience it if we're lucky and live long enough to get there. So
Yeah.
I wanted to show an older woman. So Miriam in The Mother is an older woman, and Megan in Lyrebird is an older woman. And I wanted to show older women with agency, with intelligence, but something else that I think comes as you get older. And that is a kind of confidence which comes from, so many people have thought badly of you and tried to put you down and undermine you all your life that you
Yeah.
have become to some extent impervious and content in your own skin, less interested in proving yourself to other people. And
Mm.
20-year chime change at the beginning of the book also helps me to do that, because the Megan who first looks into the
Mm.
Lyrebird's evidence is actually quite nervous and insecure. She's 40, but she's only just started as a detective. She's been at home looking after her son. And I remember myself, the kind of insecurity you have going back into the workforce where you feel, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. But by the time she's 60 and she's been in the police force for 20 years and she's proved her worth, she has a confidence and a sense of her own professional,
Yeah.
and that and a sense of her own power. And I think the other thing that often happens, not it doesn't happen to everyone sadly, but often happens as you get older, is you get a lot smarter about not giving your power away. Women are almost groomed to give their power away when they're young, to give it to other people. And by
Yeah.
giving their power away, I mean looking for approval. If you're looking for approval, you've given your power away. You're asking other people to tell you who you should be. And I
Yeah,
think
it's
by the
interesting.
time women get older, they've given that up, because you're never going to get approval anyway. So who, don't worry about it. Just be wrong in your own way. And so
That's great advice.
yeah, so that was part of it, a lot of it. There was another reason too, which was really with my advertising and marketing hat on. I would go to writers' festivals with my non-fiction books, and what I would see is that festivals are absolutely packed with women of a certain age. They're the ones
Yeah,
who
you're
are
not
buying
wrong.
books, reading books, and are engaged with books. They're in book clubs. They're going to writers' festivals. They're the audience. They're the audience. And I've had people on the board of writers' festivals, despising the audience because they're older women.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
so that got my dander up. And so I looked at that and I thought, isn't it interesting? All these older women reading lots and lots of books, and no one's writing any books with older women as the protagonists, except Anne Cleves, perhaps, and the wonderful venerated Agatha Christie. But I could, and so I will. And you know what? They've all both been bestsellers. So I think from a purely calculated point of view, I was making a smart, and it's amazing to me how young writers and male writers are blind to who the audience is.
Yeah.
Look, they don't see, because that's the invisibility of older women. We just kind of don't exist as individual people. Well, that might be how you young ones think of us, but we exist as individual people to ourselves.
Yeah.
And I guess I've made that part of what I want to do as a writer. I want to make older women, amongst other people, feel good about themselves.
Yeah, that's really powerful, Jane. And it is something particular to writing fiction too that I think where if you see yourself
Yeah.
represented, it's representation, right? And it does feel different. It feels like you connected in a way that's deeper than just or any other way, really. It's one of the most intimate kind of, moments.
It does something else though too, which is really important. Because one of the questions I get asked a lot when I'm out talking about any of my books is, and by lovely men who are in the audience, and there are never very many men in the audience, which is sad, but there are always some. And they ask me, how can I be a better feminist ally?
Wow,
And
okay.
I have an answer for that. And the answer is read more books written by and about women, watch
Yeah,
more films made by and about women, and more TV series and more creative work in general. Because what happens at the moment is it's quite hard for women to get published. J.K. Rowling, for example, why isn't she Joanna Rowling? Because the publisher said to her, if you make a JK, we'll sell more. Why isn't it Hermione Granger and the Sorcerer's Apprentice, Philosopher's Stone, whatever the hell it is? Because it only sell to girls. Because women will read, the Women's Prize did research on this. They got all the bookshops in the UK to note down the gender of the people who bought the books they sold over a
yeah,
year.
yeah,
And what they found was that women bought more or less 45, 55, something like that, male, female authors. They read across. But men bought over 80% men. They very rarely buy women authors. And one of the things I think that fiction can do, and we need this so badly at the moment, is, and it's one of the reasons that having diversity in my books, and age, of course, is a form of diversity,
yeah.
is to get people to empathize with people not like them.
Yes,
So
100%.
to identify with a protagonist who is not like you, because that creates empathy for that protagonist. And if you empathize with someone, you recognize their essential humanity. If you recognize their essential humanity, you can't do to them what the villains in this book do to the women
Yeah,
that they traffic, who they don't see as fully human. And what do we need more of at the moment? More perhaps than we've ever needed at any time in history for a lot, well, for a long time anyway, is more of that, the ability to empathize with people who aren't like you,
yeah,
immigrants, people of color, women, trans people. The lack of empathy is so awful at the moment. So anything I can do to help just
build empathy. Yeah,
increase the empathy we have for our fellow human beings who are more the same, even no matter how different they might appear, they're more the same than they're
yeah,
different, then
yeah.
I will have done what I've set out to do.
That's awesome. That's a good note to almost finish on. Believe it or not, we're actually nearly out of time, which is full on. It seems like that's gone by so quickly. So just a reminder to join Ben's Book Club on Facebook if you're not already a member. We do this every month. Jane, also just as a reminder too, to have a think about some questions. I do have one more for you though, and this one's from Kelly. Would you ever bring back any of the characters you've introduced here, particularly the detectives like Megan, Phil, Samira, and Josh for another book? I think that's a good question.
Lots of people have asked me about that, which is really interesting to me. I have said to everyone it depends on the idea. Now, I am working on, I'm not working, I'm playing with. I always fool myself like this. I don't get to I don't block myself by saying, oh, now I'm writing another novel because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
raises anxiety. So I'm just playing with an idea. And with this idea, I needed a detective, and I thought, well, why reinvent the wheel? I've got them. So that one is being written at the moment. I haven't got very
Oh,
with Megan and Samira in particular, but the others will also make an appearance if that novel continues. Because to not use them, I'd sort of be actively resisting using them, and that just seems to be pointless to me.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm not locked in. You know, if I decide this idea isn't working and I come up with something completely different and they
yeah.
won't fit, then I'll follow the idea. I'll follow the idea and express it as authentically as I know how.
Okay, that's very hopeful for Kelly and for everyone else, I'm sure as well, who fell in love with your characters the first time through. I think that
Nice
is
to
one of the,
hear too that people like the characters so much, and particularly Megan, who I'm very proud of.
yeah. Sorry, excuse me. Well, thank you for tonight, Jane. We are finishing up. There's a lot of people commenting saying, great interview and that you've been very inspiring, Jane. So that's really lovely. Thank you for all your awesome comments and questions, guys. I don't know whether, actually, you know what? I will do this. This is the first time I've ever done this. I don't know whether you can see. This is my screen. And so you can see
Wow.
all my questions in preparation. I think I asked, what, one or two of my own questions?
But those are the best, those are the best chats when they're not, here's my question, here's my answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flow and different ideas prompt an idea in your head or an idea in the audience's the chats on the chat there. That's when the conversation is going as conversation should.
It's an actual conversation and not a interview.
Yeah, I interviews are there. I always
Yeah.
prefer
Well, that's why, that's where I think, who was it? Jimmy Fallon recently lost his Tonight Show because I think that's sort of done now. People don't want the 5 minutes of prepared answers. They want to hear genuine questions and genuine answers, right?
that's why Graham Norton does so well. Because Graham Norton
Yeah.
feel like a bunch of people just sitting around having a giggle. And he doesn't do the clunky um, and he manages to get the book that they're promoting or the film that they're promoting. He's an absolute genius, Graham Norton, who also writes crime novels. Quite
I
as
didn't
well.
know that, does he?
Yes, he
I'll have to
does.
look that up because I quite
Um,
like him.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Janelle, just a quick note. We did already talk about the cover. It was a lovely cover, and Jane was specific about the lyrebird feathers. Jane, do you have a best question of the night to award out the copy of our book to?
Yes, I think Margaret Spencer's question um,
Awesome. That's
is
lovely.
it's in my head.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a really, really good question. So, Margaret, thank you. Congratulations. This is my copy. I'm not sending you this one. This is mine. But we will be sending you another copy of Lyrebird in the mail. Margaret, I'll just type into the chat box here. And so hang on, sorry, I'm just gonna you go to my website, you can just go to my website there and go to the email form and send through an email just explaining that you're from the book club and we'll get your details so we can send you a copy. But Jane, we're very grateful as always for your time and for your excellent answers and for your great writing. And can we please tentatively, definitely book you in for the next time, the next book,
Oh,
please?
of course, no problem at all. I'd only be too happy. It's fun to do.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Cool. And thank you, Ben's Book Club. As a reminder, guys, just jump onto that Facebook and go to Ben's Book Club, and you should see my face there, except I had a bigger beard. Just click through, and we send out sort of notes and comments, and we're always talking about books. And the excitement about tonight, Jane, has been off the charts in the club. So it's been lovely to chat with you. And yeah, thank you for making the time.
My pleasure. And I noticed you got a couple of people in from England and the US, and I'd love to crack an international publisher if you know.
Oh, Randy, I think is even a book. I think he had a question up here. Sorry, I'm just scrolling back up. Because he was talking about how a lot of men just refuse to read women as well. Randy was saying he's from a bookstore. There you go, Randy. Can you get Jane into the US, please? Randy, you're from the US, aren't you? Am I wrong? That's the right Randy. I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of the right person. Sorry, just anyway.
I'm dropping it everywhere just in case. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. All right. Thanks, Jane. Thank you. And
Bye, bye,
yeah,
everybody. Thank you so much.
yeah. Bye, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.